It's Speaking with Gravity, and I'm Kervin, your host. On this podcast, we talk about mental health and how everything affects everything. When you sit with a therapist, which is me, the conversation is different. With every episode, my goal in this conversation that we're having is to make you think, make you feel, make you do what's best for you. I'm a therapist, but this isn't therapy, it's just a podcast. Today, we're going to talk DV, and I have two beautiful, very important young ladies in their respective states. You have right to my, I said right to, on my left, I have, first of all, Miss April Kelly, the Georgia State Coordinator for Domestic Violence for Zeta Phi Beta. Am I saying that right? Mm-hmm. And then Malinda Searles over beside her, the South Carolina State Coordinator for Domestic Violence. So we're going to get right into it and talk about domestic violence. This was kind of easy for me. And I say it's easy for me because I've worked with individuals that have experienced DV over the last couple of years. My wife, Malinda, has worked with them as well. And April, I believe you've worked with them throughout your career as well. So this is just going to be a general dialogue about DV. So my first question to you all, is this my first question? My first question is, have y'all ever heard of D.L. Hughley?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, the comedian?
Yeah.
Now, he said he ain't never seen a quiet woman get hit. Does that have anything to do with DV? Yeah, I just threw them all the way off on that one. I know he's a comedian, but seriously, what's the warning signs for abuse and domestic violence? Either one of y'all.
You want to go? Would you like for me to start?
You can go first. You can go first.
Yeah, he threw me off.
I know, right? I wasn't ready. I'm still like.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to throw y'all off.
I don't think I was ready either. As far as the warning signs, some of the warning signs for domestic violence can be controlling behavior. Mm-hmm. Want to control where you're going, who you're with, who you talk to. So those are all. That's one of the number one red flags and warning signs. And sometimes survivors might think, oh, well, he just cares, he just loves me, and he's just concerned about where I'm going, and they forget that that's controlling, or they don't think that that's a controlling personality. So that's one of my number one red flags.
And when we talking, before we go over to Malinda, when we talking about controlling, how far is too far when we're talking about control? Like, when you're saying controlling, can you give me, like, some examples? Because I might have, I joke all the time, as y'all very well know. I joke all the time. Well, I have to get permission from my wife. She's not controlling, but I do want to talk with her about certain stuff that's going on and get kind of, quote-unquote, her permission. So is that controlling with regards to a male? Or not even, maybe not even a male, but is that controlling?
I wouldn't say that that's controlling. Being submissive is one thing, and acknowledging your spouse, that's one thing. But when you're actually in a relationship where someone is controlling you, that's something different. Asking permission, communication. Communication is big in relationships. Mm-hmm. So having that positive communication is different, versus someone who's just demanding and commanding that you don't do certain things. That's when that control comes in. Mm-hmm.
So more along the lines of, once I, demand or give you throw something out there, just making sure either you give me this or else kind of situation. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then too, you want to remember that every relationship is different. Every relationship looks different, and not everyone is going to have the same slices of the pie. Where one person might use the word submissive, another person might use the word, an equal balance. It's open communication, open dialogue, respect. Some people might use those terms. So how is it that I can respect my partner? How is it that my partner can respect me? And then two, domestic violence is about seeking power and control over another. And what tactics may I use in order to gain that power control and keep that power? And one of those things might just be, always keeping tabs on you, and or making sure that person knows they're going to have to inform me of their whereabouts at all times. What is it that I did to you in order for you to feel that way? Because sometimes it's not always those physical verbiage, like this is what I want. It might just be an intimidation. It might just be a look. At times we know that look from our mom when we're doing something wrong. We might know that look from our partner should they be involving themselves in abusive behavior.
So I hear power, I hear control. I think I heard intimidation as well.
It is, yeah.
What are some other? And I would like to think that those are red flags. Are there any other red flags for people to kind of watch out for in general when it comes down to DV?
We have a power and control wheel
Yeah.
that domestic violence advocates, counselors, that we often go back and look at, that power and control wheel, and it breaks down the different steps, the different stages, what each red flag looks like. Because the ultimate thing is, the ultimate word that keeps coming to my mind is control. Power. How can I take your power? And that's why a lot of survivors lose their voice, quote unquote, because their power was taken from them. But then we have to think about culture too when we're talking about submission. Because sometimes submission in our culture might be different in my neighbor's culture.
That is true.
So we have to also think about things like that when we're talking about domestic violence.
And what different types of control is there? The first thing that comes to my mind is economics. But there's other types.
Yes.
What other ones are prevalent?
Well, there are various types of control that one can use on another, and of course we all know the physical violence. We always know about that one. That's the one that's most seen. But then there's also psychological abuse. There's also emotional abuse.
Spiritual.
Yes.
You have
Religion
spiritual,
plays a fact.
verbal
Religion plays a
abuse.
factor.
What you
And
mean?
then verbal abuse.
Well, what y'all mean about religion abuse?
Because spiritually, I was spiritually abused,
Okay.
and so that's what I'm a survivor of. Where you use the Bible to manipulate, or you use your religion to manipulate and make someone do the things that you want them to do. And once again, it goes back to that control. Spiritual control is real, and a lot of people didn't know that. But when you're coming from a background where you know what's right, because you've been taught what's right, you know the truth, but then you meet someone that's putting other stuff in your ear and makes you confused and start making you rethink some things, just so they can gain control. Or you have those who use the Bible because they know you're a woman of God. They know what you stand for. So I'm going to use the Bible to make her do these things. Oh, you didn't interpret that scripture right. Let me show you. This is the interpretation. You're like, well, I've been reading this scripture all my life, and I read it this way. So that's that spiritual control. Or you can look at my last example is the cultures. Different religions, different cultures, they have that type of control.
Is it possible for that person to really believe like what it is that they're trying to say? Okay, when we're talking spirituality, I believe that this particular scripture means this or whatever. I'm gonna use Proverbs. I don't know the actual scripture, but it's in Proverbs 31 when we're talking about a virtuous woman, right? I think it says something in there about rising up early in the morning. So say that person really feel they taking it literal. Oh, you got to get up early in the morning to take care of me or the family. And if they really believe that, are they controlling that person, or is it they just have a misinterpretation of it, and then the person themselves are allowing that person's misinterpretation, that individual misinterpretation, to lead the relationship?
That all depends on how you're using it.
Okay.
if someone is using it, to teach, and they are only teaching or
And not
from their
expecting.
interpretation, that's different. But
Okay.
if you know that you're using it to make someone do something, then that's that control again. Versus just sitting there having Bible study.
Okay. I got you.
I'm going to teach you this and show you this because I need you to do this.
right.
So that's the difference.
All right, and so we got spiritual. We said physical. Or something else that we said.
Verbal.
You have verbal abuse.
Verbal abuse. How examples of verbal abuse?
Well, with verbal abuse, it's basically using derogatory, negative terms, putting someone down, and making sure they hear you, making sure they feel you. What is it? At times when working with victims, I was a domestic violence counselor for about 5 years, and I worked in the shelter. And one of the things in doing my studies and working with individuals, going to a support group, it echoed over and over again. The bruises are the easiest thing. The physical abuse is the easiest thing to get over. The hardest thing to get over is that verbal abuse and that emotional abuse, because those things that have been said echo in their minds over and over again, and they have internalized it, and then they tend to believe it. Like, I don't do anything without my lashes. I don't. But I've had a victim tell me she was getting ready to go do a survivor's presentation, and she had to wash all of her makeup off of her face because she could hear her ex-husband's voice echoing in her head. She wasn't pretty enough, she wasn't good enough, and makeup wasn't going to do anything for her. And she had already been divorced from this man for 10 years. It was 10 years later, and she could still hear things, and she was an advocate in the field. So
So
that
by all
verbal and
accounts-
emotional abuse is a real doozy.
By all
It is.
accounts, she
That's a
had kind of
trigger.
overcome it.
That's a
little bit.
trigger.
Okay. The trigger is
That's a trigger that she
remembering.
had.
Okay. With regards to that, how have y'all seen people overcome these situations that we're talking about in the past, in your work with survivors?
For everyone, it looks different. When you get with an individual who has experienced this, no matter what level to what magnitude, it always looks different, and there's something different that's going to help them leave the situation, overcome the situation. And when it comes to leaving, the biggest thing is, you don't know what straw is going to break the camel's back in order for someone to be able to be strong enough to leave a situation. And then two, we don't know what they've endured in that situation to where do they feel safe enough to leave? Do they know what's on the other side? And it's almost as if like the devil I know is better than the devil I don't know. I don't know what it looks like on the other side, so I don't know if I really want to leave this situation. I don't know what healing looks like, so I don't know if I'm really ready to heal. I don't know what a real, true, healthy relationship looks like, so I don't know if I'm over all of this. Everyone comes to a place in their own time, and they utilize different tools in order to make it there. Sometimes it's your best friend who has that listening ear and is ready to help you when you're ready to be helped. Sometimes it is that caseworker or that school guidance counselor who noticed there was something going on with your child, and they reached out to you. So it really just plays a different role in each individual's life. But they all latch on to something in order to make it out, if they're lucky and blessed.
When in working with substance abuse, you hear often people saying you have to hit rock bottom in order to want to make that change or to kind of turn over. Is that a similar case with DV, or is it different? I know you said earlier everybody is different. Do people have to hit they last? It was a phrase you used. I think the camera or something.
The straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah, that right there.
With April,
Does it have to be that in order?
No, it does not. But I want to let April dive into this one because I know she got something good for us. Because I can talk and I can tell you, but April can make you feel it, and I want her to answer this one.
Oh, okay. You gonna make me?
I'm gonna make you feel it.
You gonna make me feel this one?
Well, she gonna make you feel something in this podcast. You hear me?
Well,
Something.
you know, I'm a storyteller, so by trade, I love motivational speaking. And I guess this is where my sister going with this, but you know the song "When a Woman's Fed Up."
Yeah.
There ain't nothing you can do about it. You know, and I'm gonna say woman. I'm gonna use woman, lady, girl, because that's me. However, domestic violence does not discriminate.
It does not.
It can be in the LGBTQ community. It can be, with men. So it doesn't discriminate. But however, for today and for this purpose, I will refer to a woman. When a woman is fed up, there's nothing you can do about it. That song is so true. If I come home every day to the words that are constantly attacking my character, to the hits on my spirit, the hits in my soul, my emotions start to bleed. The bleeding that my soul would do, after a while, I'm going to keep bleeding and bleeding till you die. So your mind starts to tell you, I got to get out of this. Even though your heart would tell you, I need to stay in this. But your mind is like, no, I got to get out of this before I die. Some people stay for their children. Some people stay because of financial reasons. He paid all my bills. Where am I going to go? But there comes a day where that light bulb goes off where you're like, I got to do this for my kids. No, I have to do this so that I can survive. And that's that aha moment, where you do see survivors like myself who say, I have to go. I have to get out of this. This is not healthy. This is not for me. But then you have survivors that don't know any better. I knew better because I'm my daddy's queen. I'm my brother's queen. I always refer to myself as a queen because I was taught that. But you have some that don't have that foundation because they saw abuse in their home. So that's when the mind starts playing tricks and start telling them, I gotta go. But no, what if I don't? Well, mama went through this, daddy beat mama, or mama beat on daddy, so maybe I should stay. Oh, well, they just love me, so I need to stay here. So that's when we as advocates have to really be by their side. Those particular individuals who have that mindset, that's when patience comes into play. That's when that real love, unconditional agape love that we're supposed to have for all mankind, that's when we have to exercise that type of love to show them this is what real love looks like. We have to show them in our actions. We have to show them in our steps. We have to show them in our life so they can see, oh, if that person made it out, I can make it out too. But that doesn't mean the triggers won't be there. That doesn't mean they won't have that time where they fall. Because being substance abuse, sometimes you can get that chip. You'll be all hype and excited. I got my 5-year chip. I got my 30-day chip. And then you relapse. So the same thing with survivors. Sometimes they go back and they relapse. And it's okay. An addiction is an addiction. Stockholm Syndrome is real. An addiction is an addiction. It doesn't matter what kind. You can be addicted to drugs, or you can be addicted to that man that keeps beating on you, or that woman that keeps abusing you. An addiction is an addiction.
Now, you mentioned the community of LGBTQ community. I might have been missing some of those acronyms, those letters.
Yeah, we missed some. We did.
But
I apologize because we did.
How often is it with men? How often is it with men, if y'all have a stat for that? Not sure if y'all have one. And do it look the same? Do DVs look the same if a man is the victim?
No. 1 out of 4 women, 1 out of 10 men.
Okay.
1 out of 6 LGBTQ. However, that's who reports. Those are the stats that report. Just imagine how many men do not report. I don't want to look soft. I'm hard. I'm the head of my household. I look soft if I report. But statistics tell us 1 out of 10 men will experience domestic violence, 1 out of 6 from the LGBTQ community, 1 out of 4 for women.
What does it look like for a man?
The type of abuse looks different as well. For a man on a woman, it is more so like the chokes, the punches. For a woman on a man, it is more so verbal and emotional, and the physical part would be more so like slaps. For LGBTQ community, one of the biggest things is intimidation and shaming. If you tell what is going on, I'm going to out you. You know, that's one of the biggest things that people have to deal with in this day and time, being ashamed of coming out, because you're ready to tell your story when you're ready, not when someone else is going to make you. So you might want to keep your relationships under wrap. You might keep what's going on in your relationship under wraps. But even though they all experience it, it is just a little bit different. And there's shame and stigma that comes along with it, and that's why all three of the groups don't tell as much as they do, because at times they feel as though, well, I shouldn't have stayed this long. Well, I shouldn't have believed whatever they told me to believe, or I should have accepted help when someone first reached out to me. You know, there's different reasons why, and then it looks a little bit different in each relationship.
I was reading, I guess, on some social media platform about it takes, and I don't know if this is still the accurate number of times, but 7 times before somebody will actually leave. But at the time that I was reading it, I think one of the comments was people always ask why that person didn't leave and never ask why the actual perpetrator didn't stop. So with regards to that, just in general, do you think we as a nation, a state, are doing enough to invest in getting people to stop as opposed to getting people to leave? I mean, this is just kind of a random question, but like, where do we go with that? I do know that there are some things out there for perpetrators, and I don't know if they still the same. But at one time, I was working with perpetrators. If they got a CDV the first or second time, they might have been ordered to go to a class. That class is usually 26 weeks, and then they might be on probation. But one of the interesting things that I found was there are guys in there who had 3 and 4 CDVs, not purposely serving them concurrently, but it was like they were serving them concurrently. And it was with the same person. You know, they'll get a CDV, get assigned to class. All right, they're in the class. Situation happened again a few months down the road. They go back. And then, you know, they still with that same person. They get additional probation, assigned to class, and they ain't even finished the first class. And then it happened again. Like, that literally would happen at least once that I know of for certain. But that being said, are we doing enough when we're talking about perpetrators? Or what else could we do? Maybe not what are we doing enough, but what else could we do beyond just those classes?
Oh, you turning this?
I always have an answer, but I want to give you a chance.
What's your answer though?
Well, one of the biggest things that comes to mind, especially when I was working in the shelter, because sometimes it would be me in between an abuser and a victim in the courthouse. And y'all, I'm all of 5'3"3/4. But I didn't care. I would still be that. I would have to be, you know, that gap, and I would have to stand in that gap for someone. But I think one of the biggest things that I really, really, really wished would have grown, what is it? I think it's, April, what is it? Like the bystander? Like the bystander, it's something where bystander
law?
Not necessarily the bystander law, but it's like where a
Bystander training?
where they would get involved.
Innocent, a regular person?
A regular person who is standing by get involved, because sometimes these things can shock and wake someone up, because when those abusers were doing whatever it was they were doing, when little old me opened my mouth, it changed the situation. I've stood up to people 3 times my size, police are all around, and I'm the only one who said, "Excuse me, I'm not the one. Play with somebody else." You know, and all of a sudden, eyes were widened. All of a sudden, voices quieted. And all of a sudden, nobody was trying to intimidate Malinda anymore because they couldn't get to the victim that they wanted. You know, and sometimes it just takes someone stepping up for someone else. And stepping up doesn't always have to mean you step in between the violent situation. Sometimes you could just play interference. You see something going on, walk up to somebody with your cell phone. Hey, I'm lost. Can y'all help me? Find this app. Help me find this app. You know, that just changed, you know, that de-escalated the situation really quick. And then two,
Is there
accepting.
the way that you just gave that example? Is there like a training for that, or you
Yes,
just kind of?
yes, there
There is
are
a training.
trainings.
There are
trainings.
Bystander training.
Yes, there are.
Where
I
can
didn't mean
people
to say
find
law.
it?
There is not a law.
Oh, okay.
Excuse
Yeah.
me. I
Well-
take that back. But there is bystander training. And a lot of colleges and universities, they are actually, because that's where I do the bulk of my work now is on college campuses. And even right now on my college campus, we are, I'm in the process of rewriting the policies and procedures for our Title IX program. Now, Title IX, for those who do not know, that is an amendment that came into place under President Nixon. And so that amendment came into place to make sure that our students are being treated fair, as well as minorities and women are being treated fair. And now it has trickled on over to athletes and everything else. However, under Title IX is a bystander training that schools are starting to implement.
That
And we
is
need to get
awesome.
more colleges on board because that's where it starts. It's all about education. You can't say that someone knows what to do if they've never been taught. You know, so it's very important that we as a community come together as advocates, as survivors, come together so that we can educate on the bystander training. Go and learn it yourselves. Get certified so you can train the trainer, you know, because it's very important that we keep it going, you know.
I know you said on college campuses. Is that accessible to just a regular Joe Blow like myself?
It is.
Okay.
It is. You do have agencies who have bystander training, but it's important, once again, that we put it out there and say, hey, you might want to come to this training because this training is important.
How do they find out about it?
Through your local agencies.
Okay.
All the DV agencies, the SA agencies, and I know we're using acronyms. DV is domestic violence, SA is sexual assault.
Okay.
So through your sexual assault agencies, domestic violence agencies, and y'all know I am a huge, huge advocate against sex trafficking and human trafficking. So those agencies, they offer trainings all the time.
And or resources, you know, they can help you gather resources, literature, materials, CDs, DVDs, you know, that you might be able to distribute and or just recycle and reuse during your own little homegrown trainings.
Do SA, DV, sex trafficking, all of them kind of go together, play off each other? And for the record, I am a therapist. I know some of these answers, but we're talking to an audience, so I'm bringing up these things. Do they go together? Do they play off of each other? Do they intertwine? SA, you call it SA, sexual assault, SA, and DV, and what else? Oh, trafficking.
They do. Sex trafficking, once again, goes back to that power and control.
Yeah.
You know, and I hear people all the time, oh, well, she chose to go out there. She chose to do that. He chose to go out there and do that. No, that's not necessarily the answer. I don't care what they telling you. Some people do say, oh, well, I wanted to do it, and no, I get it. You wanted to run away from home. However, you didn't think you would get picked up by someone else, by a perpetrator. You didn't think that. I don't like to use the word John. I hate using that now, but a lot of people use that back then to explain these predators. And so a lot of these young teens or even young adults, they didn't choose to go out here and do this. It happened. You know, so once again, that's domestic violence. That's that power and control. I'm going to control you. I'm going to tell you when you eat. I'm going to tell you who to sleep with. I'm going to tell you how many to go sleep with, and you better have my quota when you come back. I'm going to tell you how to dance on that pole, and you better have my quota at the end of the night when you finish doing that lap dance.
And you know what? I just want to add, even though some of these things are intertwined, not everyone experiences all three. Some of them may only experience one, some of them may 2 out of the 3. And then 2, no one experienced it per se day 1. With domestic violence, you are wooed into that relationship. It builds over time. Now, sometimes it can escalate very quickly. The relationship can go from first date to married very fast. And at times, that's what the abuser wants. But they are wooing you. They are courting you. They are pulling the wool over your eyes. When that pimp that she was talking about gets you, He not forcing you into this situation in the beginning. You are his girl. You are his top girl, his bottom girl. You know, however they put the term. You know,
The bottom B. Bottom B.
What she said.
I wasn't ready for that one. Now I wasn't ready.
No. But you know, you are wooed into these situations, and then that wool is lifted, and you have to go ahead and continue on with this situation if you don't know how to get out, if you didn't see the warning signs in the beginning. Because what is it? This is the biggest thing. No one goes out on the first date and get called every name but a child of God and ready to go on that second one. You don't get to the second date and get your teeth knocked out and ready to get married. You know, it doesn't happen that way. So people are courted, they are wooed, and 2, one of the reasons why they stay is because in whatever situation, at times, depending on the severity of it, they want to get back to that courtship. They want to get back to that honeymoon period. That heart tends to hold on, as April was saying, even though the mind realizes that this isn't a good situation. The heart is longing for what it once had, and they feel as though if I could just do this, if I could just go get that, then it'll go back to normal. But there is no normal. It was just the facade that you happen to get caught up in.
So it can start off good.
Oh yes,
And then
yes,
propel
9
into
times out of
something
10.
They start off good.
They start off good. They start off better than good.
Yeah, that's actually a kind of a jewel that you put out there. Them wanting to get back to the beginning.
Sure enough.
And kind of staying put, even though they know they shouldn't, but
It's the
wanting to go back.
imagination. You know, you dream of how it's going to be. You know, you dream of how you want it to be. So you start to tell yourself these dreams are true because this is what you want. So you see it in your head and in your mind, and then your body starts to follow, when the reality is that was just a dream. That was just a fantasy. Now you're awake and you realize it was a fantasy, but because you have all these dreams in your head, mainly because this is what the person told me, or are these dreams in your head because this is what you told yourself? Because, oh, wow, I finally met that one.
So what determines, y'all mentioned this earlier, a healthy relationship? What determines a healthy relationship, and how you figure that out?
Well, the same way we have that power and control wheel, we also have what it is a healthy relationship looks like. And that wheel, at the very center of it, is respect. And then it sprouts out like the slices of a pie. And it just it gives you what it is a healthy relationship entails. And it, at branching off from respect, it is things like communication, things like, what is it, being able to negotiate fairly. You know, it just gives you all of those slices. April, what are some of those other slices of the pie?
You said respect.
Respect.
Being treated fairly.
Okay. Negotiation.
Being able to negotiate.
Being able to negotiate, because
So
if I respect you, I'm not gonna tell you this is the way it's gonna be.
So like, you know, compromising within the relationship.
You can,
and healthy communication.
Communication.
So that goes back to what you were saying with, and I say this in couples therapy. Every relationship is different. You can't say for certain you got to go this route, or you got to go that route, but two people together, respecting each other, will compromise on different things and agree to do, come to an agreement on different situations. So tell me a little bit more about the domestic violence initiative that your organization has for your respective states. What's the initiative? What is the goal?
I'll let South Carolina talk.
What is it? Well, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated is a African American sorority started in 1920 on the campus of Howard University. And since then, we have come up with various initiatives in order to help our community. And now it is time to turn our eyes to victims of domestic violence. How is it that we can reach back and help our sisters? And this is one of the things that we found there was a need in. There was a young lady who lost her life not too long ago who was an active Zeta, who was seeking help, who was trying to get out, and she still lost her life. And we really feel as though it is time for us to be able to give back. Our organization is worldwide. We're international. So what we have done is activated every single chapter worldwide and asking how is it that we can put together awareness events in order to make sure this education is spread, because the way you stop the violence, stop the cycle of violence is through education and awareness. So how is it that we can put it out there? And each and every region has a regional coordinator who it trickles down to every single state that has a state coordinator, and then every single state goes down into the chapter levels, and it goes down into our auxiliary groups, our youth groups, our male networks. How is it that we can rally around individuals who need support and who need help?
When we're talking about, you said there was an active Zeta that was seeking help. What does, for somebody like myself, no, not like myself because I'm in the field, but just a random person that's not in the field, they haven't been an advocate, they haven't been a survivor, they haven't been a counselor or a therapist, how do they know somebody's seeking help? Beyond them flat out saying, hey, I need help. What does that look like? Somebody seeking help or wanting some assistance in getting out?
It can look various ways. Before I get into that, I want to piggyback off of what my sister said about our sorority. So far, Zeta has really, I can say, we have done a great job. Mm-hmm. Considering that this is a brand new initiative, mm-hmm. I will say I'm very excited and happy that we are doing this. As a survivor, as an advocate, as an international ambassador, I am very excited that we're doing this, and I can say that we're doing a great job. We're meeting on the national levels. We're meeting to make sure that policies are in place. We're really working hard to make this look good across the border, and I can say that, too, it's very important that we, as coordinators, make sure it continues to trickle down to our youth. Mm-hmm. Make sure that our college students are involved, because that's where a lot of the teen violence starts. It starts in college. So I just wanted to add that. Mm-hmm. Now, some of these signs, if you see that your friend constantly wears sunglasses after a date, then that's a red flag. Mm-hmm. If you see that the moods have changed, 1 minute this person is happy and all excited about life, then the next minute they're very depressed. That's a red flag. If you see that this person has some bruises on them that are unexplainable, or have some type of marks or scars that are unexplainable, how did you get I bit my lip. You bit your own lip and caused it to look like that. Okay, all right, yeah. Mm-hmm. Then those are, those are red flags and things that we need to look at and consider. Broken bones, even in the children, dogs being abused, animals being abused. Those are all red flags too. How did your child break his leg? Oh, he just rolled and fell. He rolled. Oh, okay. And so that's when we have to put on our listening ears and really listen to our friends. How many times do we pick up the phone and say, hey, how you doing? And keep talking. Do you pause to actually let that person answer how they're doing? Do you pause to actually see the difference in their conversation? Was their conversation like that last week? Was it like that 2 months ago? How are they really doing? We ask that question all the time. Hey, how you doing? Okay, good to see you. And we keep moving. No, stop for a minute and really see how they are doing. Are you being your sister's keeper? Are you being your brother's keeper? Check on your family and your friends, especially now during this pandemic. Check on them and see how they're doing, because during the pandemic, you can't get out. You're stuck in the house with this abuser. Shelters are full now. It's very hard. It's actually harder to get out now because of the pandemic.
Some of the shelters have had to close, actually.
Yeah, a lot of shelters have had to close because of COVID. They can't accept anyone else in. Like, a lot has happened and shift. So really check in and see how your loved ones are doing, and don't be scared to have that conversation.
And then
That sounds-
also with checking in with your loved ones and not being scared to have the conversation. Everyone is going to come to a certain point. Everyone's going to come to a certain point on their own time. So we can't be mad when they don't leave the situation because we told them to or when we wanted them to. We need to make sure that we're continuing to provide that helping hand. Now, we have to be able to take care of self as well, because our own, mental health is important. So what you have to do is kind of back away from the situation a little bit and be able to help when you can. Not necessarily when you can, where you can, where it's a safe place for you as well. Because it can wear on you knowing that your family member is going through this and you can't do anything about it. But making sure they know that you're always ready to help when they're ready to receive it, it can change the playing field. It can change it greatly, because they're not being blamed for anything, or they don't feel as though shame should be upon them for not doing it in a timely manner. But not everyone comes out in the same time.
Y'all kind of answered my next question, but of what a family member or relative can do. And you said have the conversation, notice changes. You said be available.
Yes.
Whenever they're ready. Be available
Patience.
for them. Yeah, have the patience. Yeah, that was gonna be a rough one though. So y'all got events going on, education. Tell me a little bit about, in closing, tell me a little bit about the upcoming events y'all have. Do y'all have any upcoming events or anything y'all want to put out there that you want the public to know and kind of check out later in the year or coming up?
Well, I'm always boots to ground, even if I'm by myself, boots to ground in the community, because I have to remember that we have listeners that might not understand what that means. So I'm constantly working, because this is what I do. This is what I eat, sleep. This is what I do. Outside of working with special needs children and providing therapy services to them, this is what I do. This is why I'm here. This is my mission, and this is what God has called me to do. So I'm constantly doing things, even outside of, it's not that I have to get all my sorors together and we do it together. I'm doing things always on my own, like going to the shelters. In February, I plan to go to one of the shelters, and we, as my chapter, and for the state of Georgia, we're going to go into the shelters, give back, give some toiletry items, pray with the ladies that are there, just kind of be there for them, maybe do a fun activity outside of the sorority, my chapter. I go and I make sure that they have toiletry items all the time. I'm constantly involved. I sit on the board for a couple of organizations, so I'm always involved, making sure that we spread love to these individuals that are at these shelters. Spreading love might mean just going to get some flowers and take it, and make sure every young lady gets a rose, or it might just mean sitting there and listening, sitting there in their living room and just listening. But because of COVID, of course, they have tighter restrictions now, so everyone can't go to the shelters. But for some of us who already have established that rapport, we're able to still come in and out, and we can bring those items that have been donated through our sorority. We can bring those when we go and take pictures and let them see that this is where your items went, so they will know that we're not, abusing the system at all.
How can you be reached if someone wanted to contact you or want more information about some of the things you got going on?
I can be reached on IG through my handle is the April K, so that's T as in Tom, H as in Henry, E as in egg, April, APRIL, the letter K. I can also be reached on Facebook under April K. And that's how I can be reached. But our next thing that we have for my chapter and here for the state of Georgia, I'm making sure that all chapters have been trained. Because
that bystander training or just training in general?
Train, period, on what domestic violence is. Because I can't expect for them to know, or I can't expect for them to be ready to go into a shelter. They might not know what to do. So that's my next goal, is to do a training. I have a training with my chapter, embellishment training, that's January 30th. And I'm also doing another training in February. So every month I'm setting aside time to make sure these chapters are being trained properly. Because it's one thing for me to say, oh, I need you to go and do this, or can we do this? Can we raise money for this? Can you come to the shelter and do this or that? And you never received the training. So how do I know you're not going to post the pictures on Instagram or Facebook and then these young ladies are behind you, survivors, So those are things that we need to make sure that our chapters know.
Yeah. All right. For the state of South Carolina, my co-coordinator and I have come up with various activities. And some of the things have already gone by. We had a couple things to kick off. Last year, some things in October for National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, some things in November and December. But now that we're hitting January, we have a workshop that is going on January 30th, and there's going to be a panelist. And this workshop is going to be targeting survivors and or those who would like to exit their domestic violence relationship. And then the title is going to be Putting the Pieces Back Together. And it's going to be on a Zoom platform. So if anyone needs the link or what have you, if you're interested, I can provide that to you. You can contact me. Some of the other things, there's actually going to be February 20th. In February, that is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. We're going to be hosting a teen and youth training. Now, Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated has teamed up with the CDC. And CDC has a whole teen dating training curriculum. It's a training curriculum to where that you can become trained and then go out and push that awareness out into the community so that teens might be more equipped with the tools that they need in their toolbox to battle this. And one of the biggest things is domestic violence is really, 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 really hitting hard on our youth. Children as young as middle school are engaging in domestic violence relationships. And so some of the education has to be put out in elementary, because if you're aware before middle school, then you might be able to combat it. You might recognize what it is and steer clear of it. So we're trying to make sure that we target our youth, and we have we have 3 auxiliary groups on our national platform. So those are the youth that we're going to be targeting in February. We have a joint training coming up in March. With the state of Georgia, and that one, it is going to be domestic violence awareness as well as human trafficking and sexual assault, knowing the warning signs and making sure you have those resources so that you can combat this aftermath. And then following that, in May, the state of South Carolina, on April 21st, we're going to be having a statewide 5K walkathon. Now, each and every chapter is going to partner with a shelter in their area, and we're going to try and combat this thing at one day, one time, in one voice, trying to just make sure that we're getting that awareness out there, because this is what breaks cycles. And then the last thing that's on the state calendar, May 7th is going to be our Wear White Day. And that's just in recognition of all those who have been victims, all those who have been survivors, all of those who are just in the fight. It's May 7th is going to be our National Wear White Day for the state of South
I
Carolina.
thought you was gonna go through the whole year. You was on the road.
No,
How can they be in contact with you? You were saying you can give them the link to the Zoom.
Yes. Well, if you can look me up on Instagram and or Facebook. My name is Malinda, Malinda. My last name is Searles, Searles. Is that how you spell it, Curve? I'm sorry, I'm new at this. No, I'm not new at this.
Yeah, that's how you spell it. S-E-A-R-L-E-S.
Oh, that's how you spell it.
Searles.
Okay.
Yeah. 15 years you've been spelling it like
15.
that.
I said I forgot that I wasn't new. But you can reach me on my personal page and or you can email me at what is it? Zeta. No.
I didn't even give that email because
Yeah.
I'm not gonna do that. I just if you need to reach me
Okay.
on IG.
I guess y'all gotta
No,
go
I
to
can
Instagram.
differentiate.
I'm gonna keep it simple for the
No, because I
listeners.
might ignore them. I might think they're a stalker.
I guess we're gonna be going to Instagram and finding both of these young ladies because they can't decide if they want you to send them an email or not.
No.
Zeta is
Yeah, mine is-
ZETAGADV. Cord COORD1@gmail.com.
And that is mine as well. Just switch the GA
To
for
SC.
SC.
Okay. I hope y'all got that. Out
They
there.
got it. They got it.
Out there in podcast land, I hope everybody got it. All right, thank y'all for coming on, giving us more knowledge. You wanted to say something?
Yes, I do want to say something. January is National Human Trafficking Awareness Month, so thank you all so much for inviting me to be able to speak on this platform. I really appreciate that.
that's
You
what's
know, if we can just please make sure that we wear blue sometime in January.
Okay.
Make sure that we wear blue and make sure that we post it and just let everybody know that you're wearing blue. The Zetas love blue. However, we want you to wear blue for human trafficking awareness during the month of January. Just pick a day and hashtag it and post it to let everybody know that you are standing against human trafficking.
And
right now.
this particular podcast is being recorded on a certain date. What date is this?
Oh, snap.
What date is this?
Today
This is
is
your opportunity.
January 16th.
Which is
2021. So we are 101 on today.
Yes.
and who is we?
Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated.
Yes,
Okay.
it's Founders Day. Happy Founders Day, sis.
Just one.
Happy Founders Day to you too, boo.
Again, we already went through this.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Offline.
All right.
Happy Founders Day.
I just
You
wanted to.
gave us a moment. We had to take it.
Yeah, I wanted to give y'all a moment.
Oh, you
I
know
am
Zetas, we already ready to be
non-Greek,
finer.
but I know how important that is to you all.
Thank you.
I'm your host, Kervin. I am on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I don't think too many people have my name. So you just find a Kervin Searles anywhere on those platforms. You can reach me. If we said something in this particular podcast that you want to know more about, just reach out to me and I'll try to guide you in the right direction. Again, thank you for listening. Thank you to all of those who support me and give me an opportunity to kind of stick my hand in this new endeavor. Thank y'all for everything. Remember, I'm a therapist. This ain't therapy, it's a podcast. Until the next time.
To our listening audience, please make sure that you remember that everything that we said on today is for informational purposes only. Thank you.
All right.